Congressman, how are you? Great. You will be our last. You may be our last guest here, Congressman. What did you think of the president's speech?
Well, it was a mixture. Look, there was a lot of it that I think he knows is dead on arrival and was fairly provocative. Obviously, we don't agree with the tax policy. I think there's considerable skepticism about the community college proposal. We don't think he's entitled to any victory laps on foreign policy when we have a terrorist state established in the Middle East, and where we think Putin has been a lot more successful than the president thinks. So those are areas where we would disagree sharply. On the other hand, if you listen, there's some places where we can cooperate. Trade was a very interesting thing when you're on the floor, because all the Republicans were on their feet yelling and hollering, and all the Democrats were there glum with their arms crossed. So that's clearly an area we can work together. Cybersecurity, which he mentioned, I think he forgot to mention the Republican House had passed cybersecurity legislation. It was Democrats in the Senate with the problem. I think with the change over there, we now can work together with the president on that. Infrastructure, if we can figure out a common way to pay for it, is something we agree needs to go forward. I look at he mentioned precision medicine, which was interesting to me. I was just out at the National Institute of Health with 5 other members, a bipartisan delegation today. But that's an investment this country ought to be making, and we've got some other areas of excellence like that we've allowed to atrophy a little bit during a tough budget time that I hope we can come back and find some common ground on. So there's some things to work together here, but a lot of it will depend. Will we see the Barack Obama that worked across party lines on the Cromnibus, where he took a minority of the minority and a majority of the majority, worked with the speaker, worked with the majority leader, and got things done? Or are we going to see the Barack Obama who issued executive orders on immigration they knew were going to be provocative, issued veto threats on Keystone when it's a popular and bipartisan issue? I mean, I think the president's got to decide which president he's going to be. Is he going to be a president who is basically acting as chairman of the Democratic National Committee and wants to set the next person up, in which case he's not going to cooperate? Or is he looking for 2 years of substantive progress and legacy? I think if he is, he'll find some willing partners.
What's first up for Republicans after this speech? What of the things that the president's laid out there?
Well, I think the things that are easiest to work on. We have our own agenda that's coming out this week that will continue bill by bill, and the president's not going to agree with us on the 2 bills that we're going to bring out this week. On the other hand, again, looking further down the road, to me, trade is the easiest area to come together and cooperate, and I would argue the sooner we can give President the authority he needs, the better chance he has to negotiate a deal over the balance of his presidency. I think I'll be very interested in seeing his budget on the 2nd and see where other
February 2nd?
Yes.
Yeah.
Assuming he makes it on time. And he said he will. It'll be the first time he's done that in a long time. But that'll give us a better starting point. I think ISIL is another area. We don't think the president has done well here. We think he's mishandled the war, but we agree very much. He needs an authorization for forward. We need to be united in this. The country needs to have that debate and discussion. He also
sooner rather than later. He also pointed out his confidence in, I think he said, our Asian partners and our North African partners in terms of national security defense work in Afghanistan and elsewhere. Well, are you as confident as the president?
No, I'm not as confident, although I agree with his point that we need partners. There's no question about that. And particularly in this situation, dealing with Islamic terrorism, you have to have Islamic partners in there with you. But I think you have to look at he's been clearly wrong on Syria. We've got 2 memoirs out by Bob Gates and Leon Panetta that say that. He clearly was wrong about Iraq. He never envisioned ISIL establishing a terrorist state. So there's a lot of areas where his foreign policies fail. I mean, his view of what's going on in the Ukraine isn't what the Ukrainian peoples are. They don't feel like they've been winning. They've been watching their country dismembered. Crimea is never coming back, and they're seeing eastern parts of their country torn away, and Russian troops in their territory in the United States not even sending lethal aid to people under threat. So, I don't see how you can look at this foreign policy and say it's been a success.
Congressman, you'll get the last word. Thanks for being with us tonight.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Good to see you again.
Good to see you, too.
That'll about wrap it up here on C-SPAN 2 and cspan.org. We want to remind you that all of our coverage